G'day guys and gal. Another Warhammer 40k game, another opportunity to see if the curse of mid 40k games is broken or if it continues. Darktide is the latest and potentially greatest 40k game to come out, created by a reputable and tested company that is famous for the much enjoyed Vermintide games. More or less a massively updated Warhammer themed Left 4 Dead. Nothing wrong with that. If Valve refuses to make them, then other people should. Before I get going, this video is sponsored by Fatshark, the developers of Darktide, but I gave them the same terms as I give everyone else. I'll review you, but it's my review. If you don't like what I have to say, then I get paid anyways. Fortunately, Darktide isn't a piece of shit, so we don't have to have that awkward exchange, but it does mean that I am under no obligation to kiss this game's ass if I don't genuinely want to. Today we'll be reviewing each of the key aspects of Darktide in order of importance. That order being gameplay, features, graphics and art style, the story and writing, how it runs, including bugs and glitches, the audio, which includes music, sound effects and voice acting, and finally a quick note on the company itself, because if people suck, you shouldn't give them money. Once we've checked out these key components, I'll give a score out of 10 and my final thoughts, to if you should buy the game now, wait for it to be updated, or give it a pass. Let's get into it. Darktide follows a tried, tested, and true gameplay formula, a 4-player co-op taking on hordes of cannon fodder enemies with a few tough bastards thrown in to create some challenge. However, to just call this a Left 4 Dead reskin wouldn't be fair or accurate. In Darktide, your character progress, what class you choose, and what loadout you enter each mission with greatly impacts your gameplay experience. For example, the veteran class sits back and snipes high-value enemy targets, whilst the Ogren goes in, often with a shield, and creates a one-man frontline. The difference between classes literally changes the genre of game you are playing, between an FPS or a hack and slash. I mean, fuck, the weapons you are wielding can change that as well. This is where Darktide is at its best, the meaningful diversity of weapons. Each weapon feels different. As a zealot, I started off with an axe and a rapid-fire pistol thingo. The fully automatic pistol was fun because I could just unload an entire clip within 3 seconds into an oncoming horde. Whilst I didn't really enjoy the axe as it swung slow and it didn't cleave through enemies, instead getting stuck on each one. So I swapped my weapons to a semi-automatic las rifle and a combat knife. The knife was extremely fast and great for dancing around and slicing down a horde, whilst the las rifle was great for long-range accurate headshots against high-value enemies. Eventually I moved on to an auto gun, which is so fun, dude. Fully auto-firing into a horde and watching them get mowed down is the exact kind of dopamine I need in a video game. Darktide has not only made each and every weapon feel unique, with their strengths and weaknesses abundantly clear, but it's also made them incredibly satisfying. I don't think I've ever enjoyed gunplay as much as I do in Darktide, and Darktide knows this. It gives you plenty of ammo so that if you wanted to do an entire mission purely as FPS, you can probably do that. Combine how unique each weapon feels with the fact that there is a shitload of weapon types, you really feel the effort and love that went into this game. How about the other side? What are the enemies like? Well, you've got your low to mid tier cannon fodder, enemies designed to get mowed down in droves and act as a meat shield / distraction so that the more dangerous enemies can gun you down or tear you apart. As for these more elite dangerous enemies, some are cool and make a real impact. Just look at my reaction seeing a mutant for the first time.
Oh shit! Whoa! 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 What the fuck? Whoa! What the fuck? Get off me! Get the fuck off me! Oh my god! Fuck you! What was that? Oh my fucking heart, guys. Jesus.
Whilst others get mowed down alongside the cannon fodder without you even realizing. The scab enemies aren't very special, just tankier dudes with bigger guns. It's the enemy ogrens, mutants, hounds and other unique elites that make things interesting. The scabs are just whatever and I often can't tell them apart. It doesn't make them bad, but they're just pretty forgettable. The big bosses include the Beasts of Nurgle and the Plague Ogren. They are awesome, but unless you're standing next to a ledge, not very scary. My favorite common boss out of all of them though is the Demon Host. Basically the witch from Left 4 Dead. This eerie bitch will have a full schizo meltdown if you piss her off. She's going to sodomize you to death. she actually targets people who have already been knocked down in order to ensure their death. I've never actually beaten one before, usually they piss off after killing half your team, but in terms of difficulty and how they play, demon hosts are the most fun. Before I move on, I want to discuss the classes a bit more. Each class plays different and gets more unique as they unlock more passives. The Zealot is a frontline berserker, the Ogryn is the tank, Veteran is the sniper, and the Psyker is the Psyker. What does let them all down a bit is how unexciting their special ability is. Each class only has one and it's pretty mid. The Zealot charges forward, gets a small shield, and does a bit of extra damage for a second or two. The other classes follow a similar pattern. It would be great if it was more impactful, unique, or flashy, because at the moment I actually forget to use it half the time because it makes such a small impression. Now onto the features. Darktide is pretty stacked. You have total character customization, down to the voice actor and personality you want to use. There are a ton of cosmetics for both you and your weapons that don't affect gameplay, so you can really emphasize your drip. There isn't a whole lot of diversity of gameplay or game modes though. You go on with your crew, kill a shitload of heretics, defend this, kill that, hack this, which does sound diverse, but at the end of the day it all kind of plays the same. With the atmosphere and style of each map also being similar, it can feel samey and repetitive. If I could add one game mode, I would choose having hectic choke point defenses, where you get access to turrets, throwable traps, and you can just focus on the pure ecstasy of firing a machine gun down a narrow corridor, mowing down hundreds of bad guys. That's just chef's kiss, but I'm yet to encounter that. The defense bits are more just like survive in an arena for 3 minutes rather than actually holding a line. A new feature that I like that I haven't seen before in these types of games is that each class has a regenerating shield, which makes the fact that enemies can now shoot you way less frustrating, as you can cop a few pot shots and have time to return fire or take cover before your health starts draining. Basically makes getting poked not a pain in the ass, and also makes the game a bit less stressful when you're low on health by giving you a little bit of breathing room. Although Darktide teases having NPC allies, for example at the start of some missions you'll walk past a number of inquisitorial guardsmen, it doesn't let you fight alongside them, which I think could be fun. An epic line defense as your NPC guardsmen are whittled down one by one, waiting for the data extraction to finish before you then need to leg it to the extraction ship while dozens of elites are hot on your tail. That would make me fucking cream. Unfortunately, Darktide just hasn't given me that get to the chopper vibe that Left 4 Dead was so good at. I fondly remember those Left 4 Dead missions where 4 tanks would charge out of the mist, and instead of fighting them, your only genuine option was to run for your life and pray at least one of you got to the boat in time. With Darktide, you finish the final objective and then you just kind of stroll to the extraction point, completely unmolested. A feature I'm really just not a fan of. What about the graphics and art style? All I can say is wow. The graphics are amazing, and not just for the textures, but also the very fun physics systems which make everything feel alive and impactful. The atmosphere is moody and dark, but not in an annoying way which makes it hard to see. The grimdark art style contrasts nicely with the banter between each character, reminding you that this is without a doubt a Warhammer 40k game. It doesn't hold back on the gore. There will be blood, limbs, and flesh flying around, especially if someone has a chainsword. The game could probably benefit off more map diversity, as each map does feel and look similar, but this initial style they have chosen is very thematic and on brand. Either way, the graphics and art style is definitely not something I'm going to complain about. What about the story and writing? Unlike Vermintide or even the Left 4 Dead games, you create your own character from scratch. The benefits to this is that it's a lot easier to roleplay, and it also means you can have multiple members of the same class in your team without breaking the lore or immersion. The lore of Darktide can be a bit hard to follow, as you are bouncing between different missions with different objectives, whilst the main story progresses as you level up. The gist is that you were an inquisitorial prisoner, arrested on false charges. However, when the ship gets attacked and you escape, saving one of your captors in the process, the Inquisition recruits you as expendable meat. And I really love how much of a chosen one they make you not feel like. It's made clear that you are one of many expendable agents that they are sending to do their dirty work. You aren't special and they treat you like shit, which is honestly so refreshing. The cool part is that as you level up and prove yourself to the Inquisition, their respect for you also slowly increases. Your goal is to continually disrupt the forces of Nurgle as you're getting closer and closer to the heart of the corruption within the hive city you are tasked with dealing with. The lore was actually partly written by the legendary Dan Abnett, with the help of a number of other writers. This would explain how they managed to create over a dozen different completely voice-acted character options, each with their own personality. I chose the super righteous and highly autistic male zealot voice, while I do get a chuckle out of the Irish woman zealot, who once said, "I shit you not, Blood for the God Emperor, Skulls for the Golden Throne. Shows the developers are having a bit of fun. In terms of lore friendliness, I'm yet to play a more immersive 40k experience, from the writing, characters, atmosphere and style. They've just totally nailed it. The only nitpick would be that 4 low-level unaugmented humans, even the Ogrins, wouldn't last more than 10 seconds in Darktide. Your characters fight more like Space Marines or even Custodes, but as it is about gameplay and fun, this gets a pass. What about the audio? How are the effects, music and voice acting?
Get you degenerate!
I'm the internet!
He's done! Dead Ranger! A moment! I'm reloading!
10 out of 10 all round. There is nothing I have to say about the audio other than it's amazing. All the guns feel impactful, all the voice acting, which there is a ton of, is diverse and full of character, music is incredible and builds that tension nicely. This game really uses audio as a mechanic. A number of enemies give aggressive audio cues as to how close they are to fucking you in the ass, such as the Hound, Mutant, Suicide Bomber and even the Demon Host. Absolutely no complaints regarding audio. Something I do have complaints about though is how the game runs. Most prominently, its stability and performance. I didn't play the beta and even waited for the day 1 patch before I went into review mode because I wanted to give the devs the chance to sort out those day 1 problems that every game seems to have these days. Despite that, the performance isn't great. I have a beast computer, yet I would have to turn off a number of graphic enhancements to get a stable 60 frames per second. When I first launched my stream, it was horrendous and I had to troubleshoot my graphics mid-stream to get it playable. As for stability, the game does crash a fair bit. I get at least 1 crash per session.
Balls of dust in the air! Atmospheric shield is barely holding! Am I dreaming?
Fortunately, these crashes are generally whenever I start a mission, so I wouldn't waste like 20 minutes only for the game to crash just as we were extracting. This wouldn't be too bad if the game's loading times wasn't super long. Loading up the game takes a while, so between a crash and getting back in, it's a real pain in the ass. They have said that performance and stability is their current priority, so hopefully this gets sorted out within a week or 2. But if I'm finding it noticeable, I don't want to imagine what people with low to mid PCs are experiencing. What about Fatshark as a company? Honestly, legends, and not just because they're paying me. Even before we signed on for me to do this video, one of their devs reached out to me, said they liked my videos, and just gave me 5 game keys that came with the premium version of the game. No strings attached, they just wanted me to have fun. As far as I know, Fatshark has never done anything shady, and they pour their heart and soul into the games they make. They also aren't this massive AAA mega soulless corporation, so if ensuring your money was going somewhere not shit, then yeah, I think you're in the green. So what is my verdict? I'm going to give Darktide, in its current state, an 8.5. Its foundations are rock solid, amazing gameplay, amazing audio, a lot of passion and effort. The main current issues are the sameness, the repetitive grind element of the gameplay, the backseat narrative that I haven't found particularly engaging yet, and most certainly, the game performance and stability. However, when the performance is sorted and a bit more diversity is brought into the game, 2 things that are pretty easy since the foundations are already strong, then Darktide can easily push into the 9 to 9.4 territory. If you think it looks great and are keen, then get it. If you're a bit on the fence, then I would say give it another week or 2 for the performance issues to get sorted out. It is easily one of the best 40k games to ever be released, and when it's polished, could take the #1 spot for sure. Peace.